Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening. Welcome to Inside Scoop. I'm Kimberly Costabile, and we are here talking about Child Abuse Prevention Month. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and a number of organizations have gotten together to bring greater awareness to the issue. So now I have a clip, a special film clip about the national campaign to make more folks aware of child abuse. This is, there'll be a screening of a film in Alexandria called Break the Silence, and it'll be in several places. It'll be in Alexandria on, I believe, the 15th, and it'll be in Loudoun County later this month. And we also have a national clip about Break the Silence and why that film was made.
I'm one of 42 million survivors of child sexual abuse in America. And like so many survivors of abuse, I ended up keeping it a secret for years. Now as a mother with my own child, I want to make sure my children know how to speak up and tell. That's why I created Aaron's Law, requiring sexual abuse prevention education in our public schools. Parents, you need to know how to talk to your kids about sexual abuse, the warning signs to look for, and the proper way to handle it if your child does disclose. And kids, if this has ever happened to you, this is not your fault. You're not to blame, and you need to tell somebody. There are children out there right now that are suffering and scared, but you can learn how to speak up for those who need our help the most. Go to tlc.com/bethevoice to help pass Aaron's Law, and join me on TLC Sunday, August 30th at 10 for Breaking the Silence, a special discussion on child sexual abuse prevention. We need to give kids the voice that I never had.
The film debuted in August, and what we are doing is showing it again in April because this is a special awareness month for child abuse prevention. And tonight I am here with Delegate Watts, who will talk about how this legislation is impacted in Virginia. And so Aaron's Law, I believe, is a federal law, and that they're working toward, and then you've been working on several laws related on the state level. So tell me, how was this session in Richmond?
This session had very good visibility, in part because of a lot of work done by SCAN, by CASA. We increased funding for CASA programs, for example, but also because of the leadership out of the governor's office. Dorothy McCullough is just really warm and yet dynamic and very focused. And one of the budget initiatives that was adopted by both houses of the legislature, tried to add a little bit more to it on the Senate side, but that wasn't successful, was a very important initiative to look at children who are long-term foster care and they age out. Virginia has one of the highest percentages of children aging out of foster care, even though we have one of the lowest percentages of children in foster care. And because of that, when you turn 18, suddenly the light goes out. And I remember so vividly when I was director of the Fairfax CASA program, Court-Appointed Special Advocates for the most severe cases of child abuse. At a national convention, I heard a speaker, an adult, and he got his life together, but he had been in and out of foster homes repeatedly as a young person, and finally at about age 14, 15, he realized it was going to be up to him. And even though he was able to grab hold and do what he was needed to do, he so poignantly would use the refrain, but when he was in college, when he got into his early 20s, there was no place to come home to. There was no stability for him. There was no ongoing guidance. And that's what this legislative initiative will do. It will extend under a federal program, so we will be getting $2 for every dollar we spend on it, extend the kind of support that these kids, these young adults need between ages 18 and 21, as long as they are in school, in an academic, a training program, so that we are encouraging then that kind of involvement in their future.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I believe that starts in July. It becomes effective
That's
in July.
correct. Mm-hmm.
Great. And then on the courts committee, you had the opportunity to impact many issues relating to juveniles. And there was also, that was the Fostering Futures Bill.
That's
we just
right.
spoke about.
A lot of that was handled in the budget committees because it's more a matter of budget, although there was some involvement with the health, welfare, and institutions. Now I'm getting into jargon.
No, that's wonderful. Because I know, so you were with CASA, which is the court-appointed
Special advocates.
Okay. And so you were with them for 7 years before coming back to the state legislature. So that's wonderful. And I know that you continue to champion the cause. So.
And you're tying that with your reference a moment ago about my being on courts committee is a perfect bridge between why did I make that decision? I was director of the CASA program. I thought I administratively had things on a sound enough footing that I could also serve in the legislature. Well, after a few years, like a typical nonprofit, there isn't a lot of overhead administrative support behind you. And after 2 years, I realized I really couldn't handle being both in the legislature and director of CASA. And it was a really tough decision because with CASA, as you will also be talking with some of the volunteers and the current director, you know you're doing something meaningful directly one-on-one. In the legislature, sometimes you feel like you're just talking. And yet I knew from my legislative experience that only 2 of us of the 22-member courts committee had any juvenile court experience at all, and I had extensively much more experience having to do with the child abuse, neglect, the dysfunctional families, the mental health issues, and so finally made that tough decision that since I had the good fortune to be in that arena, that my voice needed to be in that arena to help speak for all the other many people out there who are concerned.
Yeah, it seems like it's informed a lot of your other bills that you've worked on, and it's been a wonderful experience. And then this year, though, on the courts committee, you did hear about the forced marriage bill.
Yes, and that one, again, while there were several members of court who voted against it, and there were 33 members of the House of Delegates who voted against it, given that CASA experience, given that awareness of the wide range of family experiences out there and what a dysfunctional family may be, I didn't need any explanation for why we needed to change our long-standing existing law that said that if a child is under age 16, or is not over age 16, or even young, I'm sorry, let me get it right again, between ages 16 and 18, the parent can give consent for marriage. Although you have to be 18 to not need that consent. If you're under 16, if you're pregnant, the parents could give consent for marriage. And we had far too many cases of forced marriages, different cultural experiences where the damaged merchandise was regarded as marry that young girl off to some quite older man who would accept this damaged merchandise. It was really tragic. And that kind of experience then has led to a major change in the law, which says that in the cases where you might petition a marriage under age 18, it has to be the child's permission, and the decision will be made by the court in writing after a finding that the child is not in danger, that the child is doing this of their own free will, and that the child is mature enough to enter into such a marriage relationship. And that is a major change. Those that opposed it mostly opposed it on, first and foremost, it was to be parental rights. First and foremost, it would be the family, not the courts, who should decide what is best for the child. Well, again, working with all the CASA cases over the years, that is not always to be assumed.
And how do they prove that they're mature enough if they do?
That will be the court's decision. Juvenile Domestic Relations Court judge will have a full hearing on the case to determine whether or not the child has that level of maturity, and to look into the circumstances of the case to make sure that there's not any endangerment to the child.
And it sounds like
age difference might well be part of that court's decision.
The age difference, between the two parties. Got it. And then in your experience, you'd seen that over the years, so it's been long in coming. I think. Okay.
Yes.
Now that's exciting to see it finally done, And then, and then I was also thinking of things from when I knew you from a few years back too. You've always been a trailblazer, and I was looking at your bio, and even back in 1958, when you were a student then, I assume?
That's right. Yes.
And that's when you were
sounds
co-chair.
like ancient history, doesn't it?
Yeah. But you were co-chair of the first Michigan Methodist Church Interracial Youth Conference. So that's.
It was a very unique experience. Again, Michigan as a northern state, you might assume that you didn't have the same problems in 58, and again, Brown versus the Board of Education had been decided in 54. This was the time of lunch counter sit-ins, etc. And this was the first time that in the Methodist Church, it was a statewide conference, I was on the state board, ever brought together the youth of, and there was a Negro Methodist church and a white Methodist church. It just seems so odd to say that in today's context, but there were two separate branches of the Methodist Church in Michigan, and again, bringing the youth together was a wonderful eye-opener to not only be part of the months planning and getting to know people, but spending time in the homes of black youth in Detroit, and really bringing that understanding with me throughout all of my involvement. Just like I was raised in a poor rural area of Michigan, and that's been important in understanding some of the Virginia issues, of really understanding the weight, the basic worth and goals in all of these various cultural differences that we have. It is very important, particularly for those of us in Northern Virginia, to have an understanding beyond just our own district experience, as much as with behind every door I find different constituent experiences as well.
Well, it sounds like you had that youth leadership experience early, and that served you well. And then what made you decide to join up with CASA?
CASA, for 4 years, I was Secretary of Transportation and Public Safety, had the correctional system, built a lot of prison cells, know the background of abuse among prisoners.
Well, next up, she has to run to a meeting at the Fairfax Government Center, but we'll be talking to the current Executive Director of CASA and bringing it all together. But I hope to see you again.
It was good to be
all
with
right?
you.
Well, we have so much to talk about.
This is firstgov.gov, where we're obsessed with getting you government information.
Brand new student loan applications on the site, baby. This calls for a celebration. Here's your uncle.
So in the end, it was either take the astronaut gig or come work here. What can I say? Duty called.
Dude, that's my cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's Sam's cop.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Sam's? No.
Just log on or email us and get what you need.
C, change of address form. That's how it's done.
D, driver's license renewal.
E, emailing Social Security information.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice, we'll allow it. All right, Ed.
What are those?
Government surplus cars for auction.
You posted those online last time.
No, you did.
I'm posting them online this time.
For all your government information, firstgov.gov.
Oh, what have we got here? Sometimes you feel tired. You can't seem to lose those extra pounds off your midsection. And your joints hurt when you take the stairs. Well, you're getting older. But I'm happy to say that there's some simple things we can do to keep you happy and healthy for years to come. We can also lower your risk for some serious diseases the older population is often subject to. Proper nutrition is more important than ever. Your body has changed, you know. Not as many treats. A basic exercise plan, lots of walks and fresh air. And most importantly, come and see me for twice yearly checkups to help ensure the best possible quality of life. Now, how does that sound? Good boy.
Improve the quality of life for your elderly pet. Schedule twice yearly checkups that include preventive care and regular lab work. A message from the veterinary members of the American Animal Hospital Association.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. We're here currently with the current executive director of CASA. It is Darcy Cunningham.
Hi.
And we have a returning guest, Sonia Quinonez from SCAN, Stop Child Abuse Now. And tonight, again, our show is all about promoting the special month of April. And April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. So there are many different symbols of child abuse prevention. Delegate Watts had been telling me earlier that the blue ribbon was something that actually came up when she was executive director of CASA, but it was a symbol that was, the dark blue was because a grandmother had seen their bruised child. And so the dark blue ribbon became a symbol. And then it moved on over to the pinwheel. So tell me a little bit about how the pinwheel came about.
Well, the part of it came about because lots of causes have ribbons, and so that wasn't particularly unique. We wanted a symbol that was more a positive symbol. So rather than being, the blue ribbon was a reminder of a child actually that died, and the grandmother pinned it to her car antenna. So we came up with the pinwheel, the blue and silver pinwheel. Carries the blue along from the past ribbon. But the blue and silver pinwheel is a symbol that sort of inspires hope. It makes you think of great childhoods, the kind of childhood we want for all children in our community, and really helps us focus on what we want for kids.
Wow, that's wonderful. So and this month there's a lot of things going on. We were going to talk about it briefly, but there's 2 films in various areas, and so if you can tell us a little bit about the promotion that we're doing.
So they're April 12th in Alexandria and April 26th in Ashburn at Briarwoods High School. And both of it's the same film that you promoted earlier that was done by TLC, and then followed by a panel of experts in each community to really engage the community in dialogue. We think child sexual abuse is an epidemic that's spread by silence, and so we got to start talking about it in order to break that.
Which, and Darcy, I was going to ask you, how common is child abuse in Fairfax County?
You know, I think it's more common than people realize. I think that most of us that aren't in child welfare, you see occasionally something in the newspaper. And the stuff that actually gets into the newspaper is the stuff that has a criminal case typically going along with it. The vast majority of our cases don't have that criminal case running parallel to it. So, you know, last year we served about 350 children in Fairfax County. This year we're on target to serve 400. Since 1989, we've served about just shy of 7,000 children in Fairfax County. So it's prevalent. You know, thankfully, the majority of our cases are not horrible abuse cases. They manifest themselves more in the neglect area, which, you know, neglect can be parents' drug abuse, mental health issues, you know, things that prohibit a parent from taking care of a child the way that they should. Not that they don't want to, but sometimes they can't. So, you know, I think it's a lot more prevalent than we realize, but that's why we're here.
Yeah. And Delegate Watts was telling me that back then that there's some things that you do that strengthen the parent as well as the child when you do intervention. What would that be about?
So, you know, our cases, the court's already involved. A CASA is only appointed once that case is open before the court. So in our cases right now, about 80% of the children are in foster care. They've been removed from their home. About 20% are still at home. So initially and always at the beginning, our goal is to reunify that family. You know, we want to strengthen the family. We want to eliminate whatever was happening in the family to get them back to a family unit and to make it a safe place for those children to return. So the role of the CASA is to monitor and report back to the court, to really act as the eyes and ears of the court, and to let the court know what's really happening within that child's life or children's lives, and to make recommendations to the court as to what is in the child's best interest. But at the beginning, it's always about trying to reunify and get that family back together.
Mm-hmm. And how long are you working with a family at that time, or working with the?
For us, currently, our current caseload, it looks to be about 23 months. That's the average case right now, from the day it comes in to the day it closes. And when it closes, that means that that child's achieved some sort of permanency, whether it's reunification back home, whether they've been adopted by another family, whether another family member stepped forward and said, I can be the caretaker. But it's 23 to 24 months right now.
Wow.
It's a long commitment.
And that's about the same in Alexandria and the other areas. You cover a different territory.
Yeah, I actually wanted to sort of interrupt and make sure that your viewers knew what CASAs were. Can we do just a quick?
Sure.
CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. So all of our CASAs are volunteers. So Darcy runs the program in Fairfax County. Scan runs the program in Alexandria City and Arlington County. And both of us recruit volunteers from all walks of life, put them through some pretty rigorous training about child welfare laws and resources, and then match them one-on-one to a child who's in the court system, as Darcy mentioned, while their case of abuse or neglect goes through the system. The federal legislation says you should aim for 18 months, but sometimes the cases are just complex, and sometimes it just takes a little bit longer to get a parent through substance abuse treatment, or to find a relative, especially when they're in a different state, and to put that into place for a child.
And I heard that you generally have the same advocates, so that their relationship is built. So it's kind of a same person.
When we train our advocates, they go through 35 hours of training. And my little spiel that I give them is, this is a huge commitment, and it's okay if you don't want to make this commitment, but make that decision now, not after we assign a case to you, because pretty much at this point, every adult in this child's life has failed them in one way or another, and this CASA program cannot be another failure for them. So yes, the CASAs and their cases stay from beginning to end. That's the expectation, and 98% of them do. We only have about 2% of the kids experience a change in a CASA during the time that they have a case.
That's very good. What's the challenge of finding a good volunteer?
Our biggest challenge is the diversity of this community. We want volunteers who reflect the sort of demographics and language and background of the kids in our system. And, particularly when we're dealing with extended family and trying to figure out who can support a family as they get back together, or who can step in as the parent if the child's biological parents can't. We really need volunteers who can speak those languages and overcome that cultural diversity. But we take government workers, we take stay-at-home moms, we take retired folks. So there really is a great diversity of folks.
That's wonderful. So anyone listening now, if they wanted to volunteer, how would they reach you?
So the first step, they can go on our website. It's www.fairfaxcasa.org, and there's a drop-down that says volunteer. And the first thing you have to do is come to an information session. It's mandatory. And then the next step would be to fill out the application. And then there's an interview process and background checks. And then if you get accepted into training, you do the training, and then you get sworn in by the court, and then your life changes.
And I loved how you smiled when you said that. Were you a volunteer before you got into all this, or how did you get drawn to
CASA? Prior to this, I've always worked in child abuse and neglect or child welfare of some sort. I was raised by somebody who, my stepdad was the youngest of 9 children, and he actually ended up in the foster care system, and it was a horrible experience. And he became quite an advocate for children and definitely impacted my siblings and myself. And 2 of my aunts were CASA volunteers up in New England. And so I always knew about the CASA program. When I was doing child abuse law in DC, I didn't have CASAs on any of my cases. I wish we had, because they do really make a difference.
And so when you say make a difference, what would be the difference?
You want me to say?
Sure.
Okay.
You know, I think the children that we work with do have a social worker, but that social worker has lots of cases on their caseload, and they're trying to figure out sort of something for every kid. There are attorneys involved in the court cases, but oftentimes they're really just able to handle the courtroom setting. The CASA volunteers are out in the community. They talk to the teachers, they talk to the doctor, they talk to the therapist, they talk to Aunt, Priscilla, and really try to get a good sense of what's going on for the kids. And they become what we call the eyes and ears of the judge, and they put all that information into a report to the judge, make some recommendations, and really give the judge a lot more information to make what are really important decisions about whether you're going to put a child back into a situation that at one time was determined unsafe. That can be scary, but it's just as scary to think about ripping a child away from their parents. And so we really want to make sure that the judges are able to make good, solid decisions in those cases.
That's wonderful. And then the volunteers, how many cases do they have? Just one, or?
So a case is a family. So one case could have one child. It could have, we have one right now with 9 children. Under the Code of Virginia, we can have, the CASAs can have 2 at any given time, 2 families.
2 families,
And with special permission, I have 2 CASAs right now who have special permission from the state, and they're carrying 3 cases.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but generally, it's nice that it's minimal compared to what you're saying.
And
social worker
and that, like Sonia was saying, the social workers, the judges, all of the other adults in these cases really do have a bunch of other things going on, and the CASA program really is exceptional in that it allows that adult to focus on that child or those 2, 3, 4 children, and really kind of zero in on what it is they need and advocate for what they need.
That's wonderful. We've got only maybe 1 minute or 2, but what would you say in terms of this month? How does this all work together with everything that's happening this month in terms of bringing awareness? What would you say is this year more of a heightened awareness than previous years since that movie came out in August?
I think it's something we talk about more. I think that for both of us, we both have seen an increase in our cases in the last year. Don't know why that is. But it's good to have the awareness. It's good to have people out there. And we always say, anyone can call. Anyone can make that call. You don't have to give your name if you're not a mandated reporter. And I think we would much rather you make the call and let CPS make the decision as to whether or not it's truly child abuse. But we see it every day, the difference that call makes, and it just starts with the phone call.
Great. And you'll be at the coming activities next month?
I will. I live out in Loudon, so I will be.
You'll be Loudon?
Yeah,
Good.
I'll be there.
Good. All right. Well, we'll be talking about that a little bit more in our 4th segment, but we have to chat with a few more folks in the next segment. But it's so good talking to you.
Thank you.
Hope to have you back toward the end of the month, possibly,
we'll be there,
to tell us how it went.
Thank you so
Good.
much.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you again with Darcy, and then Sonia will stay with us, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Some dreams are universal. Dreams that inspire us. Multiple sclerosis is a devastating disease that changes lives forever. The National MS Society does more for people with MS than any organization in the world. But we can't do it alone. To get involved, visit us online at nationalmssociety.org. or call 1-800-FIGHT-MS. This is why we're here. Because nobody dreams of having multiple sclerosis.
What's wrong with this picture? Half of young Americans can't locate economic powers like Japan and India. 20% can't even find the Pacific Ocean. Without geography, our children aren't ready for the world. Geography is everywhere. It's incredible creatures, rhythm, fashion, flavor. It's economics and politics. It's change. Understanding connections between people and places is critical in the 21st century. That's why we created mywonderfulworld.org. Go there now for your free parent and teacher action kits and give our kids the power of global knowledge. Because kids who understand our world today can succeed in it tomorrow.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. And today I'm with Michele Thames, Executive Director at Safe Spot, Fairfax County's Child Advocacy Center, and Allison Lowry, who's the Program Manager of the Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Services of Fairfax County. So, and if you could fill me in, so there's a lot of activity this month about prevention and awareness. How are all these organizations working together? That's what I was trying to get out just before we broke.
Yeah, it's kind of a learning experience where several of us are new to our positions, so we're meeting each other and doing some coordinating, trying to keep each other informed of what's going on for April, and really coming up with a plan for the future of how our organizations can work together to prevent child abuse.
Yeah, and April being Child Abuse Prevention Month, how long has that been a program? April being the month. Anyone?
Oh gosh.
I've been doing this work since 2000, 2001, and it's always been April is the month for us to really shine a spotlight into what happens.
And then the new film that we're invited to on, I believe it's the 15th and the end of the month in Loudon, how that came out in August, and have you seen an impact of the film, or how do you think that the audiences will react when they see it?
I think one of the big things is that the fact that the film has just come out, you know, and that people are talking about something that has been kept shrouded in secrecy for so long, and it's not something that you talk about. Child sexual abuse, when you talk about that, people turn away, they'll walk away from you. And so the very fact that it's out and that people are interested in wanting to learn more about how to protect children is fantastic.
That's wonderful. What are the warning signs? I think that what's nice is that the movie might fill folks in on the warning signs and what to do when they suspect a case. But what have you seen? What's the best way you train people on picking up on things?
I think for warning signs, it's hard for me to talk about because my organization that I work for, we deal with the cases when they've been called into Child Protective Services and when they've been called into law enforcement. And so children have already either made an outcry of abuse, just verbally telling someone. Oftentimes people find things like on a telephone, text messages, pictures. You know, if you notice a child that's wearing long pants and long sleeves and it's 85 degrees outside, that might be something. And then just different behavior from what the child is normally acting. You know, if the child becomes very withdrawn and angry outbursts and things like that, you just want to take some time to just talk to the child and see if everything is okay. And of course, if they make any kind of disclosure, stop asking questions and call the hotline immediately.
Call the hotline, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and what would be could it cause damage to ask too many questions, or what's the reason?
Absolutely. Okay. So the more questions that you ask a child, that can impact their memory, and it can impact the way the case is reported, the way that people ask questions of children. If you ask a question where you are trying to be very kind and just trying to help the child, for a criminal investigation, that question can be seen as very leading and not neutral, and could potentially show that the child is being, the child made an inconsistent statement. It's not really the child, it's the way the question was asked.
I see. So then the experts come in and they know how to ask the questions, basically. Okay.
I think the important thing is when a child does disclose something like abuse, the most important thing is that the person they disclose to believes them. and communicates that they believe them, to really help that child feel safe.
Great, yeah, that's true. And what is Safe Spot? Is that the...
Sure, Safe Spot is a nonprofit here in Fairfax County, and we work with the Fairfax County Police Department, the Fairfax City Police Department, and Child Protective Services. When a case has been called into the hotline or a case has been called into law enforcement, typically they cross-report and work together. Our agency provides forensic interviews, so we interview the child in a safe, neutral location. The interview is videotaped. Our purpose is to minimize the amount of times the child has to go through an interview and have the interview done by a trained professional. And we also offer trauma-informed mental health free of cost.
Okay. And so who would hear about a case first? Would it come in to you first or not necessarily? Or
Probably.
Okay.
If it didn't, Michele would know to call us.
Absolutely.
Okay. Wow, that's great. And so when you get a case, how do you get the referral, and how does your team react?
Sure. So there's a Child Protective Services hotline that community members, family, parents can call in if they have a concern, or even if they just have a question and say, I don't really know what to do with this. I don't know if this is child abuse or neglect. So it would call into the hotline, and the hotline would screen it according to state policy. So the state of Virginia says what cases we can and can't get involved in. So what constitutes child abuse? So they screen for that. And if there is if it does rise to the level of a Child Protective Services intervention, they will then assign it to someone to go out and talk with the family. If it doesn't, they offer other resources in the community. So they'll refer to, we've got a program called Protection and Preservation Services that'll work ongoing with the family if they've got some needs, but it may not really hit that CPS level. When CPS gets involved, for example, with child sexual abuse, that's when Safe Spot is also brought into the picture, and the child can be interviewed one time in a child-friendly environment.
And what is a child-friendly environment?
Let Michele talk about
that. We consider that an office that doesn't. We're not at the police department. We're not at Child Protective Services, and sometimes children may have had experiences with Child Protective Services before, and maybe they think that they're going to be put into foster care if they make a disclosure. And I don't know about any of you, but if you're taken to the police department, it's usually not for anything good. And so if you're a 5 or 6-year-old child and you're being taken to the police department because you said that something was happening in your family, you might think that you're in trouble. And so we try to have a place where it's very brightly painted inside. There's toys and crayons and markers, and the staff is all trained in providing a safe, warm environment for children, a comfortable environment, so that they feel safe, either to make a statement or to just come to an appointment where they can feel okay.
And I've been researching a little bit about resilience training. So how do you train a child to be resilient, and what kind of words would one use? You're training adults to speak to children to give themselves more.
Yeah, so resilience is a really cool thing, because you can use it either after there's been something that's happened or preventatively. So we all want to build resilience in our kids. And so some of that is modeling. So show your kids how you take care of yourself and that you need time for yourself. Show them healthy ways to deal with stress, words that can help them, just letting them know that you care, letting them know that they matter, letting them know that you're listening to them. And you don't have to be a parent to do that. You can be anyone.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So other adults in the community, how do you suggest that we talk to kids to affirm them, but not, so anyway, what's the best way to affirm them?
Really just recognizing them as people, and that they're important and what they think is important, and asking them, well, what do you think about that? Or, just those sorts of things.
Okay, and just valuing their input, and then that creates resilience so that they're strong enough to go to another adult if they need help.
Right.
So I know in our school, the librarians, everyone knew you could talk to the librarian. You may not trust the teacher or the principal, but you could talk to the librarian. So we could tell the librarian any problem, even something that, you know, might not be what the principal wanted to know. And so that whether it's talking about parents or talking about school issues, we could always talk to the librarian. So there's certain, so you can tell what adults are safe. And,
right.
And so I think that that's a great part of being in the community, but kids feeling that comfort level, and then how do you teach them to, you know, be wary of certain strangers? Is there any awareness training for kids on that end, or?
I mean, I think we do some work with kids around body safety, and that their body is theirs, and know who your safe adults are to talk to, and
space.
Yeah.
What's a safe space? Yeah.
Right.
So that's all good. So a lot of these classes, the prevention happens. Do you visit schools, or how do you?
We do. So we've worked with some schools kind of individually. So when there's an interest from the principal or the school social worker, somebody has an interest, they'll contact us, and we'll do workshops with the kids that are age appropriate. So we go through that, and it does build on resiliency in those, and really that body safety.
Great. Yeah, that's neat. And well, is there anything else you do that I may not have touched upon in questions? Anything else?
Yes,
okay,
there's
go ahead.
a lot.
I know. I hope you come back at the end of the month. So
we have a program called Healthy Families that's run. People get screened through the health department, hopefully when mothers are pregnant. So we tried. That's really prevention. You know, when the child hasn't even been born yet, and really working on healthy development and that sort of thing, and literacy once the child's, you know, born, and kind of growing up and getting into a preschool environment, that sort of thing. We also have parenting education classes that are offered throughout the community that are free of charge. They're also based on age ranges, and those are group classes in the evenings. And if people are interested in getting some tips on parenting and how to be a better parent, the information is on our website to do that. And we also have a program with certain elementary schools that really works it's called Neighborhood Networks, and it works to get families really connected to resources in their community.
Do you do collaborations with faith-based organizations as well?
We do. We do. A lot of our parenting education programs are in churches in the evenings, and do a lot with them.
Wonderful, good. And I don't know if we flashed the number on the screen, but if someone wanted to call Safe Spot, and so what number would they call?
The best way to reach out to us is to go to our website. We don't typically take call or referrals from the community. We work pretty specifically with law enforcement and child protective services. But if you have questions, there's a section on our website where you can send an email, and we'll respond to you that way.
If a child is experiencing a problem, who should they go to? Who should they contact?
Well, a child would just make a statement to a trusted adult, and that adult is considered a mandated reporter. So
and
they call the hotline.
Fairfax County or the police. Great. Well, thank you so much. We're about to go, but we hope to see you at the film and get your reaction at the end of the month and how things went.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Good. Thanks.
Too many women get hit by their boyfriends and husbands. Too many women are pressured into having unprotected sex. Half of the people in the world living with AIDS are women. It doesn't have to be this way. Together, we can change this reality. Let's strive for a world free of violence.
At Volunteers of America, we don't just give kids a way to stay off the streets. We give them the tools they need to reach their full potential. We don't just help the elderly receive needed care. We help them live life to the fullest. We don't just provide food for homeless individuals and families. We provide job training and placement so they can buy groceries. Volunteers of America, is a national organization that for over 100 years has provided programs and services that allow people to overcome their challenges to become vital members of their community. At Volunteers of America, we don't just help people, we help people help themselves. Find out how you can support the programs that are working in your community. Contact Volunteers of America today. Call 1-800-899-0089.
Drivers face all kinds of distractions.
Guys, stop playing, no?
Before your wireless phone becomes one of them, stop. Drive safely. Keep your phone in easy reach and dial sensibly. In bad weather or traffic, call later and use a hands-free device. Remember, with wireless, safety is your call.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back, and we're here with Sonia Quinonez again, and we're going to talk a little bit more about SCAN and this big event that you're throwing together. Absolutely. So everyone's been collaborating. So again, we were talking a lot about pinwheels.
I wanted to give you one.
Thank you. So this is, and so now a lot of this, what's happening is people are planting these in their front yards.
That's right.
And we have photos of these in front of the Fairfax County Government Center as well.
Hopefully your viewers will see pinwheel gardens popping up all over Northern Virginia here this month.
And there it is. There's a nice photo of how that looks. So, and I definitely need this because, you know, my flowers are not growing, so this will make it look a lot better.
It's an instant garden.
And it'll make a statement as well. The other thing we're looking at is, there's the pinwheel partner for SCAN. There's the logo there. There's also a new app that SCAN has.
We're very excited about that. We SCAN, in addition to running the CASA program we were talking about earlier, also tries to help families before they get into that court system, more on the prevention end. And one of the things we have is an online parent resource center that has parenting tip sheets and parenting fact sheets on more than 75 different topics, challenges like how to talk to your kids about marijuana, or how to handle potty training, or how to handle divorce and how to support your kids through that. So just a variety of different topics. And one of the things we're really excited about this month is that tomorrow we're going to launch a new mobile app. So you can download it from...
Tomorrow?
Yeah, well, it's actually available now. So you can get a sneak peek, but you can go to the Google Store or the Apple Store, download SCAN Parent Resource Center, and you've got instant access to all those different parenting topics.
That's neat. I think we've got a little symbol that shows, it says download our new app. And the topics, there's various topics that are listed there, and then some of them really intrigued me. But, we talked a little bit about the words that you should talk to someone about, bringing them resilience. But what were some of the other topics?
Well, we talk about sort of how to help your kids make friends, some of those social emotional learnings. There's one on inappropriate touching and how to sort of handle questions about that. There's some on talking to your kids about tough topics and just how to open up some of the dialogue around alcohol and sex and those kind of issues. So it spans, we've got some that are oriented to parents of younger children, some that are oriented toward parents of teens, a whole section that's oriented towards parents who have children who have special needs. So we're trying to provide a variety of different topics.
And the reason I've been on your website, and I enjoyed downloading the PDFs and studying that a bit, but the point is a mobile app is helpful because right when a parent is in the crunch, they can look it up. And
we find that almost 1 in 3 people who visit our website are doing so on a mobile device anyway. So this is going to make it a little bit easier to access. And almost all the topics are available in Spanish too. So while I think the app menu at this point is in English, if you're working with parents who maybe speak Spanish, you can download fact sheets on that, and some of the radio shows that I do on parenting topics are available as podcasts. So you can listen straight from the app.
Podcast. That'd be great to hear. Wow. So, and I didn't know about your radio show. So what topics do you cover on your radio show?
Same kind of thing. It's just once a month, and we take a different topic each time. And I try to follow in your shoes and invite a guest, expert on some different topic. And
well, we hope to have you here on the radio for Fairfax Public Access. Consider that.
That would be great.
Come on over. So, wow. And then so tell me a little bit more about the agenda for this month in terms of what is happening first. It's the 12th or the 15th that you have.
So the 12th, the movie screenings, the 12th is in the city of Alexandria at the Lee Center. And it's a partnership with the CPS, Child Protective Services of Alexandria. Alexandria Schools is going to have someone on the panel, someone from the Child Advocacy Center, and someone from Healthy Families. So you've heard about several of those different organizations here to try to give folks in the audience, whether they're parents or teachers or childcare providers or community members or faith leaders, to get their questions answered.
That's awesome. So the Q&A will be after the film.
Correct. It's a 1-hour screening of the documentary and then a 1-hour sort of dialogue with the panel.
That's neat. And of course it's free admission.
It is free, although we'll have Pinwheel Gardens kits there. If people are interested in helping raise awareness that way, they can pick them up then.
Do you suggest it's family friendly? Should families go to start discussions?
Older teens, I think, yes. Okay. But some of the conversation may be one that you as a parent want to hear first and decide how you're going to bring up with your child. So I would think younger children probably not.
Yeah, so you would encourage anyone who deals with kids, whether it be coaches, faith community, teachers, anyone on that end.
We all have a role to play in making this community safer for kids.
That's great. That'll be wonderful to see everyone get out there. Yeah. And then you were saying that there's an award program going
tomorrow. Every April, since it's Child Abuse Prevention Month, SCAN recognizes what we call ally in prevention from each of the 5 major Northern Virginia jurisdictions. So there'll be someone from Alexandria, Arlington, Fairfax, Prince William, and Loudoun County who receives an award tomorrow. And it's a nice sort of diversity of awardees too, from someone who's spent 25 years working in Child Protective Services in Loudoun County to someone who runs a grocery store and just has been a real resource to disadvantaged and at-risk youth in the Prince William community and looked out for them through gang intervention and prevention. And so it's just a really nice diversity that shows that we all have a role to play, no matter what your walk of life or your role in the community.
That's so true. I talked earlier about having a librarian as a confidant, but I do remember the local store owner and the local restaurant owners were like extended family too. We would stop at the restaurant after school and we could chat away, and everyone helped influence the kids.
And that's what makes our community stronger.
Yeah, that's special. That's good. Yeah. That's good for encouraging that. And there's a bunch of I know there's a whole ton of things you wanted to tell me. But what inspired you? Because I met you when you were at the Hispanic Committee of Virginia. So what inspired you to move on over to cover these sorts of issues?
I really, when we worked there, we worked with home visiting programs and reaching out to the immigrant community, but I really wanted to focus specifically on children. And I felt like if you could support parents who are that first teacher in the child's life and make that relationship between parent and child a healthy one, that doesn't mean that kids won't face difficulties and challenges throughout their life, but if they've had that first really positive experience where they trust somebody as a caregiver, where that caregiver can help them learn how to manage frustration and interact in a positive way with friends, and set goals and how to work towards those. All those really critical lessons are what ideally a parent teaches their child. And if we can help support parents who may not have been taught that way themselves, we can break the cycle of abuse and help today's parents sort of be that positive influence that they want to be and set children up for much more success tomorrow.
Yeah, and how much of your work is prevention versus reacting after something has been reported?
Yeah, so personally at SCAN, we are a prevention organization. The CASA program is what we call secondary prevention. So something has happened, that's why the child is in the court system. But what we're really trying to do is make sure that we put all the supports in place so that they are in a strong family, have the services, the therapies, whatever it is that they need in order to be able to heal from their early trauma, and then to be able to grow and thrive in a positive way. And then our parent education programs and our public awareness kinds of programs are all about trying to support parents and protect children long before they have to end up in that court system.
Yeah. So more like a new parenting class or a young parenting class and that sort of thing. So
that's critical, and as Allison was mentioning, Healthy Families does a really good job of sort of intervening in that early window of those first few years. But I have to tell you, we talk about parenting as this diagonal learning curve. Like as soon as you figure out how to deal with the baby, all of a sudden they're a toddler, right? And you've got a whole new world of challenges. And as soon as you kind of get a handle on that, all of a sudden they're in preschool and they're talking back, or they're exploring new things. And as soon as you get that, and it's just on and on and on. So parenting always has new challenges, but that makes it exciting.
Yeah, so you have different programs for the different stages.
We do.
That's wonderful. So, and let's see. So, throwing your typical workday, how do you throw everything together? Because you helped coordinate, brought a lot of people together for us today. So how do you have to really
That's part of
gather
the work,
the team.
though. I mentioned that we all have a role to play. SCAN is a really small organization in terms of staff, but we have a couple hundred volunteers and even more partners through some of the community organizations that were your guests today. We have a Allies in Prevention Coalition, which is all sort of child welfare, family violence prevention advocates, Head Start people, school people.
Coalition building is intense, and you have to get out to a lot of meetings, and so and just keep it out there.
That's true, but all of these people are interacting with families, and if that's who we really want to impact, then we kind of figure the best way to do that is to build the capacity of those folks to really have that positive influence in coaching parents in whatever their current sort of frustration or difficulty might be today.
What is your biggest, what happened? What has happened that has made you say, I'm in the right place, I'm doing the right thing, I love my job?
That's interesting. It's really, SCAN attracts the most incredible people as volunteers and partners. You got to meet some of them today, but particularly those CASA volunteers, when they come in and they've just come from a court case and they've seen sort of something come full circle and some resolution for a child. They may have been lying awake at night, sort of worrying about that child for a couple months, but now they see that that things are in a better place, and they've been able to be part of the system that helped improve things for that child, for that family. That makes it all worth it.
So when you hear the end of the day story, that makes it all worth it for you. In other words, you get to hear the conclusion. And
absolutely.
That's good.
It brings meaning to all of this work.
It does. It does. It's just a lot going on. Okay, well, anything else you would like to tell our audience? We've got about a minute left.
Like I said, I hope that everybody will keep their eyes open for pinwheels throughout the month, that they'll take a look at our website and see if there's a parenting topic that they might be able to pass on to a parent they know, and come out to one of the screenings, either April 12th in Alexandria or April 26th in Ashburn.
Great, and it's Alexandria where again?
Lee Center in Alexandria and Briarwoods High School in Ashburn.
All right, hope to see you all there, and thank you so much for coming, Sonia.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, this is good.